Hey, Spurs fans, this is going to be your scout report for our new signing, Kota Takai, the Japanese international from Kawasaki Frontale. And we've submitted a £5 million bid, which has been accepted. And we've gotten the official here we go from Fabrizio Romano. And it is going to be a record transfer fee for the J League. It's going to be even more money than what the likes of Brighton paid for their very talented winger, Karu Matoma, who also comes from the same club, by the way, in Kawasaki Frontale. And this is actually the kit for Kawasaki Frontale that was gifted to me by our friend Lazy Eight, Nick, who you might know very well. And this is one of my favorite kits just to wear in and around Seattle. It's one of my more hipster ones, one of my better looking ones. It's very fashionable. So thank you always to Nick for everything that he's done for us in this channel, but also for somehow, I guess he don't know if he predicted this to happen, but this is a guy that is actually a fan of Kawasaki Frontale. So definitely knows probably more than even I do about this player, and definitely look forward to hearing what he has to say if he's able to ever share some light, on this player. I'm going to be making my conclusions from what I have from the stats that I've done some research on. I've taken a look at plenty of compilations and highlight reels of this player. One of my favorite ones was by Fut Scout HD. If you guys want to take a look at, it's a 10-minute plus highlight reel and compilation. I actually think is quite good and gives you a real understanding of various aspects of his game. But Nick is a big fan of this club. He had sent some encouraging texts, to me about this guy. He's supposed to be very talented, supposed to be one of the most talented center backs to ever come from the J League, and just one of the most talented prospects to come out from the J League. So I'm excited to see what he has to bring. Alistair Gold is saying that he's not even expected to be put out on loan straight away, like what we saw with Young Min Hook. In fact, he's expected to be a part of the first team squad. I wonder if he's going to be blocking up the pathway for other young, talented center backs and Alfie Dorrington, Luka Vuskovic, Ashley Phillips, but we'll get into all that later. This is going to be your scout report for our new signing, Kota Takai from Kawasaki Frontale. Please, everybody, get into the comments below. Let me know if you feel like I'm missing something, maybe some bits of research that you needed some clarification on. Maybe you have your own research that you've done that you felt like I might have been missing. If you disagree with anything, or if you just appreciate the video, would love to see your comments down below. Please smash the like button for me too, and we'll get into it. Now, as you can see on screen, he's 20 years of age, got him for around £5 million. He's already played 57 matches for his club. He's a right footed center back, 6 foot 4 inches tall already by the age of 20 years old. And he's played since the age of 18 for Kawasaki Frontale over 4,700 minutes, which I feel like at any level, if you started at the age of 18 and then by 20 have already gotten close to 5,000 minutes played for your club, I would find that to be pretty impressive. In this 2025 season, he's put up 1,600 minutes alone already for the club. And if we're going to take a look at some of his stats here, there are certain areas he's actually ranked quite well compared to other center backs in the J League. By the way, these stats are coming from FootMob. Normally, I use the likes of FBref. I trust FBref a bit more when it comes to these stats, but FootMob is the best that we can do with, and it's still a very reputable site. It's just not the one that I tend to use. But if you look at his tackles 1 per 90, he's in the 85th percentile there. That puts him in the top 15% of any center back in the J League when it comes to tackles won. Tackle win percentage is around 75%. He's in the 73rd percentile there. So in the top 30% of any center back in the J League in that department. Aerials duel one or aerial duels one. He's in the 56th percentile, which isn't necessarily a great ranking. I would say that in the J League, you wouldn't think, I could be wrong here, but you wouldn't think there's a lot of Chris Woods or big, tall center, strikers that you have to deal with that are really good in the air. I could be wrong, but I wonder if that's an area he might need to improve upon. But I'm only saying might and maybe because I'm not going to make any huge, grandiose conclusions off of these stats for two reasons. One of them, they're not normally the stat website and place that I go to. FutMob is not my regular place. But then also stats, I mean, they don't tell the whole story. They never do. The seeing eye test always has to be matched with the stats. If anything, it's good to have your seeing eye test first to make your conclusion on a player and then maybe use stats later on to help validate or maybe see something a bit differently about the player. But when it comes to a relative unknown, when it comes to a person who we know nothing about, maybe except Nick, Lazy Eight, who's probably watched this guy more than anybody ever has, that's a Spurs fan, this is what we have to work with. We have the stats to work with, and then we have various compilation reels and highlight packages to work with. And by the way, what I liked about that Fut Scout HD highlight package is this person put out the video well before we'd even had links to this player, well before the transfer even went through. Whereas you look at now on YouTube, it's just flooded with, highlight packages that have just been put together really quickly overnight. Whereas this one is a very comprehensive, long form, 10-minute plus highlight package of various aspects of his game, from his defending to his, moments in possession to various other things, from his time at Kawasaki Frontale. So I really encourage you guys to check out that video. But when we do look at maybe his other defensive stats, apart from aerials, duels, one, recoveries are actually quite high, 84th percentile. So in the top 16% when it comes to recovering possession for his team, which is a very good number to go by for a defender. Christian Romero, in fact, does really well in that department. He gets dribble past a fair number of times, or at least so far this season, he's already gotten dribble past 8 times. From what I could tell from the compilations and highlights, is that this is a guy that seems to come across as a quite aggressive defender. He likes to step out from the back line to win his challenge or to win an interception. And if you do that, that puts you up for risk. You might end up actually getting dribble past because of that. But if you look at his other defensive numbers, he seems to win his challenges quite often when he does step out. And personally, I do prefer an aggressive defender than more of a cautious defender, especially with how the game is being played nowadays. When you look at his stats in possession, he's in the top 30%, when it comes to successful passes per game. He's in the top 20% when it comes to pass accuracy. He's averaging around 88% pass accuracy for his team, Kawasaki Frontale. He's getting around 73 touches per game, and he's getting dispossessed actually a fair amount of times. Now, I would explain that. I can't, say this confidently, but he looked to be one of their ball playing center backs, for Kawasaki. I wonder if you're the guy that's being given the responsibility to play more dangerous passes, to take more risks on the ball in the back line. That does tend to lead to you probably getting dispossessed more than others, because you're being passed that responsibility to try to make things happen more than maybe others. You're not the one who's passing sideways, passing off responsibility to someone else. You're the one who is trying to get a move started out from the back line. So that is just something to note when you look at the fact that maybe his times dispossessed, or maybe not necessarily totally encouraging. But let's take a look to see how he compares to Christian Romero, someone who plenty of us regard as a world class center back, but also just in general, when you just look at stats, Romero's up there as being one of the very best center backs in Europe, especially this last season and season before. So we'll see how he compares to our man, Christian Romero. So you look at tackles one, Christian Romero beats him out there, but they're not too far away from each other. Tackle win percentage, Christian Romero is decently higher in that department. Percentage of aerial duels one. Now, this is interesting. I was slighting him to a degree for saying that his aerial win percentage wasn't that great. But I think Christian Romero has improved tremendously when it comes to his aerial win percentage, or at least from what I can tell in games. I feel like, he's definitely shown to be one of our better headers of the ball when it comes to clearances and when it just comes to just being an aerial presence. But he actually has a worse aerial win percentage than the likes of Takai. You look at successful passes, Romero is always going to be higher in that department because he played in a very possession heavy team. We were one of the highest possession teams in the Premier League, and Romero is regarded as one of our best passers of the ball from the back line next to Pedro Porro. So he's always going to have, I think, higher passing numbers than pretty much any other center back in Europe, and then especially maybe compared to a 20-year-old from Japan. When you look at maybe touches per game, again, he's going to be given a lot more responsibility. Dispossessed, not dispossessed as much as Takai, but they are actually quite close to each other, which shows that these are two center backs that do try to take risks on the ball. But I am encouraged actually by some of the numbers here compared to Romero, because with some of them, he's really not too far off. Pass accuracy, not too far off. Tackles one, not too far off from each other, especially Romero, who is regarded as a very aggressive defender. Ball recoveries, not too far off of each other. So I did like that. And when it came to even dribbled pass, number of times they're dribble pass, Takai is actually dribble pass less often than Romero. But again, both very aggressive defenders from what I can tell, and guys that like to take risks in coming out and stepping out from the back line to win the ball off of their opponent. Now, this is a brief summary I can give about the player. I think he looked to be very aggressive, and what I could tell from the stats, as well as from some of the highlight packages. He's a guy, like I mentioned earlier, likes to step out from the back line to win a challenge or to get an interception for his team. His passing looked to be pretty decent as well, and the fact that he tries to make dangerous passes, either in behind, for his forwards or a big switch of play. Just a guy that isn't always going to be playing sideways, very safe passes, looks to play it forward, which I really liked, from some of the compilations that I saw. Also made some nice blocks in those compilations. He put himself in the right area to make a block. Also went to ground plenty of times to block across or to get in the way of something. So I did like his anticipation and his positioning from what I was able to tell. And he's a very brave player. I think that kind of goes in line with the aggressive part, where he's a guy that isn't afraid at the age of 20 to step out from the back line to go win a challenge or to put some pressure on a forward that's trying to drop deep to link up play. He seemed to be a very brave defender from what I can tell. When it comes to weaknesses, I mean, I can't really make any big conclusions about this because I only know so much about the guy. I think we're all in kind of the relatively unknown, when it comes to our understanding of this player. But I did notice that he tends to go to ground a lot when making a challenge or when making a block. And the one thing I would say about that is that it's not necessarily the best of habits in certain situations, because let's say you come up against a very tricky winger or forward that can really sell you on a cross or really sell you on a shot, and then you go to ground and let's say he doesn't end up taking that shot or that cross, he can much easier blow by you and just make himself an even easier opportunity to play that cross or that shot. So it's not always the best of habits, but from what I could tell, it seemed to work for him when he would go to ground in a lot of these situations. But that is my summary on the player. The only thing I might add to it at the end is I wonder what this means for the likes of Vuskovic, for Ashley Phillips, for Alfie Dorrington. We have a lot of talented young center backs coming through. It's a good problem to have all these guys competing for the same spot. But I wonder if one of them will make way for the likes of Takai. One of them will be likely shipped out on loan again. Are they okay with being shipped out on loan, season after season? Just interesting questions to be brought up. Or is this the sign that Spurs are going to be switching towards a back five under Thomas Frank, and Takai's being brought in just as extra reinforcements for that back five? Thomas Frank, I imagine, will probably flip between a back five and a back four. He's very tactically flexible and system wise, very flexible in that regard. But just some interesting questions to bring up at the end there. Is he going to be blocking the pathway for other very talented center backs? Is that just a good problem to have so many talented center backs to pick from? And then also, is he being brought in because Thomas Frank is planning on using a back five? That is your scout report for our man Kota Takai. Let me know if I've missed anything. Let me know if you feel like I've taken the wrong angle on something, or if there's some research you might have done that I'm missing in this video. Let me know if you liked this video, please, in the comments down below. I will see you next time, everybody. And lastly, and certainly not least, welcome to Tottenham Hotspur, Kota Takai. Best of luck to the guy, and we'll see you next time. Come on, you Spurs.